When my stepchildren told me that I made too many rules for someone who wasn't even blood, it felt like someone had punched me straight in the heart. I had spent years trying to be a good stepmother. Not perfect, just caring, consistent, and loving. But in that moment, every late-night homework session, every packed lunch, every good morning kiss suddenly felt like a waste. Because how do you respond when the people you love the most tell you that your love doesn't count simply because it isn't biological? Was I wrong for expecting respect from kids who never truly accepted me? Or was I foolish for believing that love alone could fill the space that blood created? You tell me, what would you have done if your own stepchildren said that to you? It all started 5 years ago when I met Mark. He was a single father of 2, 12-year-old Emma and 9-year-old Tyler. His wife had passed away suddenly in a car accident, and when I first met him, I could still see the shadow of grief following him everywhere he went. I wasn't looking for love at that point. I was just trying to get my life back together after a messy breakup. But Mark had this calmness about him that made me feel safe. We met through mutual friends, and what started as friendly coffee talks slowly turned into dinners, long walks, and then something deeper. Mark was always honest about his kids. He told me that they were still grieving, that they had a hard time accepting new people. But I didn't see that as a deal breaker. I thought I could be patient, kind, and understanding, and that, eventually, they'd see that I wasn't trying to replace their mom. I was just someone who cared. When we got married a year later, I moved into their family home. That's when reality hit. Emma, who was now 13, barely spoke to me. She avoided me, rolled her eyes at everything I said, and refused to eat anything I cooked. Tyler wasn't openly rude, but he followed his sister's lead. They both made it clear that I wasn't their mom, and I had no right to tell them what to do. I tried everything. I organized family game nights, movie evenings, baking sessions, anything to make them feel like I wanted to be part of their world. But every attempt ended the same way: awkward silence, sarcastic comments, or complete disinterest. Mark would step in sometimes and tell them to behave, but most of the time, he'd just sigh and say, "They need time. Time." That's what I kept telling myself too. But time doesn't always heal if effort isn't mutual. Still, I refused to give up. Over the years, I learned small things about them. Emma loved drawing. She had her sketchbook with her everywhere. Tyler loved video games and soccer, so I started leaving little notes for Emma with sketch pens I bought her, and for Tyler, I'd sit and watch his matches. Slowly, there were small moments of connection. A smile here, a thank you there, nothing big, but enough to give me hope. But then, things started to shift again when they became teenagers. Suddenly, my efforts turned from kind to controlling. It started with the simplest of things: homework deadlines, phone curfews, screen time limits, chores. I wasn't being harsh. I just believed in structure. I grew up in a family where rules existed, not to punish but to protect. So when I said no phones after 10 p.m., or you can't skip homework for video games, I wasn't trying to be strict. I was trying to parent. But apparently, that was my biggest mistake. One evening, Mark was out on a business trip, and I was home alone with the kids. Emma, now 17, had friends over without telling me. They were loud, blasting music, and when I asked them to keep it down, she snapped, "You're not even my mom. You don't get to tell me what to do." Her voice echoed through the house. I remember standing there frozen, my heart pounding in my chest. Tyler joined in, saying, "Yeah, you always act like you're in charge. You make too many rules for someone who's not even blood." That line, "someone who's not blood," broke me. I felt like every piece of love I'd tried to build with them over the years had just been burned to ashes in a single moment. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just said quietly, "You're right. Maybe I've been trying too hard." Then I walked out of the room. That night, I cried silently in bed while they laughed downstairs. When Mark came home, I told him what happened. He tried to calm me down, saying they were just emotional teenagers, that they didn't mean it. But words matter, and once said, they stay. I started pulling back after that. I stopped trying so hard. I cooked, cleaned, kept the house running, but emotionally, I shut down. Emma noticed it first. One morning, she asked me if I was mad at her. I said, "No, Emma, I'm just tired." And that was the truth. I was tired of loving people who didn't want my love. Months went by like that. The distance grew. Mark and I started arguing because he said I was being cold to the kids, but I didn't know how to explain to him that I had nothing left to give. Then one evening, something unexpected happened. Tyler got into trouble at school. He'd been caught fighting. I was the one who got the call because Mark was stuck in traffic. When I arrived, I saw Tyler sitting outside the principal's office, eyes red from crying. When he saw me, his face fell. I knelt beside him and said softly, "Are you okay?" He didn't answer, just nodded slightly. After the meeting, I didn't lecture him. I didn't even ask what happened. On the way home, I just said, "You're not in trouble with me. Just don't shut me out when you're hurting." He looked at me, really looked at me. For the first time in years. "You came for me," he said quietly. That sentence might sound small, but it was the beginning of something changing. After that day, Tyler started talking to me more. We began cooking together, and he even showed me his new soccer tricks. Emma, however, remained distant until her 18th birthday. On her birthday, Mark had planned a small dinner, but Emma didn't want a family thing. She wanted to go out with friends. When she came home later that night, I noticed she was crying. Her friends had ditched her, and she'd had a rough night. I didn't say anything, just gave her a cup of tea and sat beside her on the couch in silence. After a few minutes, she whispered, "I was really mean to you, wasn't I?" I didn't know how to respond, so I just smiled sadly and said, "We all say things we don't mean when we're hurting." Then she started crying, really crying, and said, "You didn't deserve that. You were always trying to be there for us, and we just pushed you away." I hugged her, and for the first time, she didn't pull away. From that night, things slowly changed. Emma began helping me in the kitchen, talking about college plans, even asking for advice. Tyler started calling me Mom, accidentally, and then stopped correcting himself. Mark noticed the shift too. He once told me, "They finally see what I saw in you all along." But the real moment came a few months later. Emma was leaving for college, and during her farewell dinner, she gave me a handwritten letter. She asked me not to open it until she left. After she drove off the next morning, I sat on the porch and opened it. It said, "I used to think love was only real if it was blood, but you showed me that love is real when someone stays, even when they're not wanted. You stayed. You loved us even when we didn't love you back. You are my mom in every way that matters." I'm sorry it took me this long to say it. I cried for hours that day, not out of sadness, but relief. Every sleepless night, every tear, every hurtful word, it all finally made sense. Now, years later, Emma still calls me almost every night from college just to talk. Tyler's applying to universities, and he proudly introduces me as his mom to everyone. Sometimes I still think about that night when they said I wasn't blood, but now I realize love doesn't need to run through veins to be real. It runs through actions, patience, forgiveness, and staying when it's hard to stay. So tell me, was I wrong to expect respect from them when I wasn't their biological mother? Or was I right to believe that love, given enough time, can build its own kind of family? If you've ever been in my shoes, loving someone who didn't see your worth at first, remember this: your kindness isn't wasted. It just takes time to be seen. Like this video, if you were on my side, Subscribe for more real-life Reddit stories like this, and share your thoughts in the comments. Do you think love without blood can ever be truly accepted? I'll see you all in the next story.